The CEO's son ran to the street girl shouting, "They beat my dad, he's dying!" But no one expected that this poor little girl had a secret ability that would shock everyone. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The autumn rain hammered down on the Manhattan streets as 7-year-old Ethan Whitmore ran faster than he'd ever run in his life. His small lungs burned, tears mixed with rain on his cheeks, and his voice cracked as he screamed into the darkness. "Help! Please, somebody help! They're killing my dad!" But this wasn't the safe neighborhood where Ethan lived. His father's driver had taken a shortcut through the wrong part of town, and now his dad lay bleeding in an alley 3 blocks back. The attackers had fled when they heard sirens in the distance, but Marcus Whitmore, one of New York's most successful young CEOs, wasn't moving. There was so much blood. Ethan's designer sneakers splashed through puddles as he ran, desperately searching for anyone who could help. The street was nearly empty. Then, illuminated by a flickering streetlight, he saw her. A small figure crouched near a dumpster, covered in a tattered blanket that had once been pink. Wild blonde hair hung in matted tangles around a dirt-smudged face. She looked up at him with startling blue eyes that seemed far too old for someone his age. "Please," Ethan gasped, grabbing the girl's thin arm. "They hurt my dad. He's dying. There's blood everywhere, and he won't wake up." Most people would have run. Most children would have screamed, but this little girl stood up with a calm that was almost eerie. She looked at Ethan's terrified face, then down at his hands, still stained with his father's blood. "Show me," she said simply. Her voice was hoarse, like she didn't use it much. Ethan didn't question it. He grabbed her hand and pulled her back toward the alley, his heart hammering against his ribs. They found Marcus Whitmore exactly as Ethan had left him, slumped against the brick wall, his expensive suit soaked with blood. His breathing was shallow and ragged. His phone lay shattered nearby. He tried to call for help before losing consciousness. The little girl knelt beside Marcus without hesitation, her small hands moving with surprising purpose. She pressed her fingers against his neck, checking for a pulse. Then she looked at the wound in his side where the knife had gone in. "What's your name?" she asked Ethan, her voice steady despite the horror in front of them. Ethan, he stammered. "I'm Lily. Ethan, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Take off your jacket." "What? But my dad—" "Now!" The command in her voice made him obey instantly. He stripped off his jacket with shaking hands. "Fold it tight. Make it as small as you can." Lily was already pulling off her own tattered sweater, revealing a dirty t-shirt underneath. She tore the sweater into strips with strength that seemed impossible for someone so small. Ethan watched in stunned silence as this homeless girl worked over his father like she'd done it 100 times before. She wadded his jacket against the wound, pressing down hard. "Hold this. Press down as hard as you can. Don't let up. No matter what." Ethan's hands replaced hers, and he felt his father's blood seeping warm through the fabric. Lily tied the torn strips of sweater around Marcus's torso, creating a makeshift pressure bandage. Her movements were precise, almost clinical. "How do you know how to do this?" Ethan whispered. Lily didn't answer. She was checking Marcus's breathing again, tilting his head back slightly to clear his airway. "He's in shock. We need to keep him warm." She pulled the tattered blanket she'd been wearing and draped it over Marcus's legs. In the distance, sirens grew louder. The ambulance Ethan had prayed for was finally coming. "You saved him," Ethan breathed, looking at Lily with awe. For the first time, emotion flickered across Lily's face, something painful and raw. "My daddy taught me," she whispered. "Before." She didn't finish. The ambulance turned into the alley, bathing them all in red and white light. Paramedics rushed out, and suddenly adults were everywhere, asking questions, taking over. One paramedic knelt beside Lily. "Sweetheart, did you do this?" Lily nodded silently. You kept the pressure on the wound, created a compression bandage. How old are you? 7. The paramedic's eyes widened. Who taught you this? But Lily had gone quiet again, retreating into herself like a turtle pulling into its shell. The paramedics loaded Marcus onto a stretcher, working quickly. One of them turned to Ethan. You did good, son. You saved your father's life by getting help. It wasn't me, Ethan insisted, reaching for Lily's hand. It was her. She knew what to do. But when he turned around, the spot where Lily had been standing was empty. She had vanished into the rainy night like a ghost, leaving behind only a strip of torn pink fabric on the wet pavement. As the ambulance doors closed and the vehicle sped away toward the hospital, Ethan pressed his face against the window, searching the dark streets for a glimpse of blonde hair. His father was alive because of a homeless girl who had appeared when he needed her most, then disappeared just as mysteriously. In the back of the ambulance, as the paramedics worked to stabilize him, Marcus Whitmore's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. Did you see her? He whispered through the oxygen mask. Who, sir? The paramedic asked. The angel, Marcus breathed, before drifting back into unconsciousness. But she wasn't an angel. She was Lily Morrison, and she'd been living on these streets for 6 long months, hiding from a past that had tried to destroy her. What Ethan and his father didn't know yet was that the men who had attacked Marcus Whitmore that night were connected to the same people who had murdered Lily's entire family, and they were still looking for her. 3 days later, Marcus Whitmore opened his eyes to the sterile white ceiling of Mount Sinai Hospital's private wing. The morphine made everything fuzzy, but the memory of that night was crystal clear. A small blonde girl with ancient eyes, working over him with hands that knew exactly what to do. Dad, Ethan's voice cracked with relief. He'd barely left his father's bedside since the surgery. You're awake. Marcus tried to smile, but his side screamed in protest. The girl, he managed. Did they find her? Ethan's face fell. She disappeared. I looked everywhere, Dad. The police said there's no record of any homeless child matching her description in the area. A nurse bustled in, checking Marcus's vitals with practiced efficiency. Mr. Whitmore, you're very lucky. Another 10 minutes and you would have bled out. The paramedics said someone stabilized you before they arrived. Bought you the time you needed. A 7-year-old girl, Marcus said. The nurse paused, eyebrows raised. That's impossible. The pressure bandaging, the way the wound was packed, that requires training. It was her, Ethan insisted. I watched her do it. She knew exactly what to do. After the nurse left, Marcus reached for his son's hand. Tell me everything, every detail you remember about her. Ethan described Lily, the matted blonde hair, the tattered pink blanket, the way she moved with purpose despite looking like she'd been living rough for months. She said her daddy taught her, but then she stopped talking, like it hurt too much to remember. Marcus's mind, even clouded with pain medication, started working. He'd built a tech empire worth $300 million by solving problems others thought impossible. Finding one lost little girl, he'd move heaven and earth. Get me my phone, he told Ethan, and call Detective Sarah Chen. Tell her I need to speak with her urgently. Dad, you just woke up from emergency surgery. That girl saved my life, Ethan. She's alone out there, living on the streets. God knows what could happen to her. Marcus's voice grew stronger. We're going to find her, and when we do, I'm going to make sure she never has to sleep in an alley again. Ethan's eyes shone with determination that mirrored his father's. Promise? Promise. What Marcus didn't know was that at that very moment, Lily was crouched on the fire escape outside his hospital room, watching through the window. She'd been there every night, making sure the man she'd saved was okay. When she saw him wake up, saw him talking with his son about finding her, something twisted in her chest, a feeling she'd buried 6 months ago. Hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope got people killed. Lily turned and climbed down the fire escape, disappearing into the city once again. She couldn't let them find her, not yet. Not until she was certain they weren't working with the men who destroyed her family. 6 months earlier, Lily Morrison had been a different person. She'd lived in a modest apartment in Queens with her father, James, and her mother, Catherine. Her dad worked as a paramedic, and every evening he'd teach her things. How to check a pulse, how to stop bleeding, how to recognize when someone was going into shock. "Why do I need to know this, Daddy?" 7-year-old Lily had asked, practicing chest compressions on a training dummy. "Because knowledge is power, Princess," James had said, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "If you know how to help people, you'll never feel helpless." But he'd been wrong. 3 weeks after her 7th birthday, Lily had felt more helpless than she'd ever imagined possible. Her father had witnessed something during an emergency call, a drug deal gone wrong involving people who wore expensive suits and had powerful connections. He'd told her mother he was going to testify, that he had to do the right thing. The night before, he was supposed to meet with prosecutors. Men had broken into their apartment. Lily had been hiding in her closet during a game of hide-and-seek with her mother when she heard the shouting, the gunshots, the terrible silence that followed. She'd stayed in that closet for 8 hours, barely breathing, listening to the men search the apartment. "Did Morrison have a kid?" one had asked. "Boss wants loose ends tied up." "No sign of one. Maybe she's at a friend's house." When they finally left, Lily had crawled out to find her parents' bodies covered with sheets, police officers everywhere, crime scene tape blocking off her home. A social worker had tried to take her to a temporary shelter, but during the chaos of processing the scene, Lily had slipped away. She'd been running ever since. Now, standing in the shadows across from Mount Sinai Hospital, Lily watched the entrance with practiced vigilance. She'd learned to spot danger, the way certain men carried themselves, the way they scanned crowds, the way they talked into hidden microphones. And she saw one now. A man in a dark suit stood near the hospital entrance, smoking a cigarette. He looked ordinary enough, but Lily's instincts screamed danger. She'd seen him before, that night in the alley, hanging back in the shadows, while his partners attacked Marcus Whitmore. Her blood ran cold. They hadn't been trying to rob Marcus. They'd been trying to kill him, just like they'd killed her parents. The man finished his cigarette and walked into the hospital. Lily's heart hammered. Marcus and Ethan were up there, unprotected, probably thinking they were safe now that Marcus was recovering. They had no idea the danger was walking straight toward them. Lily made a decision that terrified her. She couldn't let another family die because of these men, not when she could do something about it. She pulled the hood of her oversized jacket up and slipped across the street, following the man into the hospital. She might be just 7 years old, but she'd survived on these streets for 6 months. She'd learned to be invisible, to move through crowds like smoke, to gather information like her life depended on it. Because it did. The man took the elevator to the 4th floor. Lily took the stairs, her worn sneakers silent on the concrete steps. By the time she reached Marcus's floor, the man had disappeared around a corner. Lily followed, keeping her distance, watching as he stopped outside a room, Marcus Whitmore's room. He didn't go in. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Lily crept closer, hiding behind a medication cart. "Target's still alive," the man said quietly. "Yeah, I see the kid visits every day." Whitmore's asking questions, trying to find the street rat who helped him. A pause. "No, we haven't located the Morrison girl yet. She's smart. Stays off the grid." Lily's hands clenched into fists. They knew her name. They knew she'd helped Marcus, which meant they knew she'd been there that night, could potentially identify them. "Boss wants both problems handled quietly," the man continued. "Make it look like the Whitmore guy had complications from his injuries, and if the girl surfaces, same protocol as the parents." Lily's vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to stay focused. She couldn't warn Marcus and Ethan. Showing herself would put them in immediate danger, but she couldn't just leave them either. As the man pocketed his phone and walked away, Lily made another split-second decision. She'd spent 6 months surviving. Now it was time to fight back. But first, she needed proof. She needed evidence that would expose these men for what they were, and she knew exactly where to find it. Detective Sarah Chen sat across from Marcus in his hospital room, her notebook open, her expression skeptical. "Mr. Whitmore, I understand you want to find this girl, but you're describing a ghost. No missing person reports match, no surveillance footage shows her, no homeless shelters have any record." "She exists," Marcus insisted. "Ethan saw her. The paramedics saw her work. We're not disputing that someone helped you, but finding a child who doesn't want to be found in a city of 8 million people..." Sarah shook her head. "It's like searching for a needle in a haystack." Ethan, who'd been listening quietly from his chair, spoke up. "What if we offered a reward? Put it on the news. Someone must have seen her." Sarah's expression softened. "Son, that might do more harm than good. If this girl is hiding, there's probably a reason. Putting her face on the news could put her in danger." "Danger from what?" Marcus asked sharply. The detective hesitated, then pulled out a folder. "I did some digging into your case. The attack on you wasn't random. Your wallet wasn't taken. Your watch wasn't taken. Nothing was stolen. This was targeted." Marcus felt ice creep down his spine. "Why would anyone target me?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out. Your company, Whitmore Technologies, has been working on some sensitive government contracts. Encryption software, data security systems. You think this was corporate espionage? Or someone trying to send a message? I've flagged your case for further investigation." Sarah closed her folder. "Which is why I'm advising you to let us handle finding the girl. If she witnessed the attack, she could be in danger too." After Sarah left, Marcus sat in troubled silence. Ethan moved closer to the bed. "Dad, you don't think they'd hurt a little kid, do you?" Marcus thought about the coldness in his attacker's eyes, the efficiency with which they'd tried to kill him. "I think we need to find her before anyone else does." He pulled out his laptop, wincing at the pain in his side. "Ethan, you said she was near the corner of Houston and Essex." "Yeah, by the old dumpster behind the Chinese restaurant." Marcus pulled up satellite maps, street view images, anything that might give him a clue. He cross-referenced news reports of homeless children in the area, social media posts, local shelter records. Nothing. Then Ethan said something that changed everything. "Dad, she said her daddy taught her. What if her dad was a doctor or a paramedic?" Marcus's fingers flew across the keyboard. He searched for paramedics in the New York area, then narrowed it down to ones who'd died or gone missing in the past year. The list was mercifully short. The job was dangerous, but fatalities were rare. His screen refreshed. One result stood out. "James Morrison," Marcus read aloud. "Paramedic, killed 6 months ago in a home invasion, survived by his wife Catherine and daughter." He clicked through to an archived news article. "Lily Morrison, age 7. Ethan leaned over his father's shoulder. "That's her name? Lily?" Marcus stared at the photo accompanying the article. A smiling family, mother, father, and a little blonde girl with bright blue eyes, the same eyes that had looked up at him in that alley. "Both parents were killed," Marcus read, his voice tight. Police suspected it was related to a case James Morrison had witnessed, a drug-related shooting involving organized crime. He was scheduled to testify before a grand jury when... He trailed off, unable to finish. "They killed her parents because he was going to testify," Ethan whispered. "So she ran away. She's been hiding because she's scared they'll find her too." Marcus felt rage building in his chest, momentarily overriding the pain from his injury. She's 7 years old. She watched her parents die, and she's been living on the streets for 6 months because she has no one to protect her. We'll protect her, Ethan said fiercely. Won't we, Dad? Marcus looked at his son, this brave, compassionate boy who'd run through dangerous streets to save his father. Yes, we will. But first, we have to make her trust us enough to let us. He pulled up more files, digging deeper into James Morrison's case. The investigation had been closed quickly, ruled a simple home invasion despite Morrison's pending testimony. The case files were sealed. The detectives who'd worked it had been transferred to different precincts. This doesn't make sense, Marcus muttered. It's like someone wanted this case buried. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop looking. This is your only warning. Marcus showed it to Ethan, whose face went pale. Dad, maybe we should... No. Marcus's voice was steel. I didn't build my company by backing down when things got difficult. That little girl risked her safety to save my life. I'm not abandoning her now. He typed back, come and try to stop me. What Marcus didn't know was that Lily was in the hospital's security office at that very moment, having slipped in through a maintenance entrance. She'd learned to pick locks months ago, a skill taught by a homeless veteran who'd taken pity on her. Now she sat in front of the security monitors, watching the footage from the night Marcus was attacked, her small hands working the controls with surprising skill. She was searching for proof. Evidence that would expose the men who destroyed both their lives, and she was recording everything on a stolen USB drive. But she wasn't alone in that office. The man in the dark suit had doubled back, following the same instincts that had made him a successful enforcer for years, and he'd just found exactly what his boss had been looking for. Lily's fingers froze on the keyboard. She heard the footsteps in the hallway outside the security office, heavy, deliberate, the kind of walk that said the person knew exactly where they were going. Her mind raced. The USB drive was only halfway through copying the footage. She needed 2 more minutes, but she didn't have 2 minutes. The door handle started to turn. Lily did what she'd done 100 times before. She made herself disappear. She dropped to the floor and rolled under the desk, pulling herself into the narrow gap between the wall and the file cabinets. She'd learned to make herself small, to breathe shallow, to become nothing. The man in the dark suit entered the room. Lily could see his expensive shoes, could smell his cologne, sharp and chemical, the same smell from that night in her apartment. Her heart hammered so loud she was certain he'd hear it. He walked to the computer where she'd been sitting. Security office was supposed to be locked, he muttered into his phone. Yeah, someone's been accessing the footage from 3 nights ago. A pause. The footage from the Whitmore attack. Lily watched as he pulled out a device and plugged it into the computer. The screen went black. He was wiping the footage, destroying evidence. Done, he said. No record of what happened that night. As far as anyone knows, it was a random robbery attempt. Another pause. What about the girl? Lily's breath caught. If she's trying to gather evidence, that means she's staying in the area. Probably watching the Whitmore guy. Kids that age get attached to people they save. We'll use that. The man's voice dropped to something colder. Set up surveillance on the hospital. She'll show herself eventually. When she does, same protocol as the parents. Same protocol as the parents. The words echoed in Lily's head, dragging her back to that closet, to the sounds of gunshots, to the terrible silence. The man finished his call and left the office. Lily stayed frozen under the desk for a full 3 minutes before she dared to move. When she finally crawled out, her hands were shaking. The computer screen was blank. The footage was gone. Her only chance at proof had been erased, but the USB drive was still plugged in. Lily scrambled to the computer, her small hands flying over the keys. The man had wiped the hard drive, but he hadn't checked for external devices. The footage was still copying to her USB drive. She watched the progress bar inch forward, 89%, 92%, 95%. Footsteps in the hallway again. Lily yanked the USB drive from the computer at 97% complete and bolted for the door. She made it 3 steps into the hallway before she saw more men in suits coming from the other direction. She was trapped. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "When you're in trouble, princess, sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting. It's knowing when to ask for help." Lily made a choice that terrified her more than any dark alley or cold night on the streets. She ran, not away from Marcus Whitmore's room, but toward it. She sprinted down the hallway, her worn sneakers slapping against the linoleum, the men shouting behind her. She burst through Marcus's door just as the men rounded the corner. Marcus and Ethan looked up in shock as the small, filthy girl from the alley threw herself behind Marcus's bed. "Please," Lily gasped. "They're going to kill me, just like they killed my parents, just like they tried to kill you." Marcus's eyes widened. "Lily, you know my name. We've been looking for you." Marcus reached out slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. "You're safe now. I promise you're safe." "Nobody's safe," Lily whispered, but she pulled the USB drive from her pocket. "But I have proof. I have proof of everything." The door slammed open. 3 men in suits stood in the doorway, their expressions cold and calculating. The one in front smiled, a terrible smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Whitmore," he said smoothly, "we're hospital security. That child is a runaway we've been trying to locate. We'll take her off your hands." "No," Marcus said firmly. He pressed the call button for the nurse. "This child is under my protection. If you want to take her anywhere, you'll need to go through proper channels. Police, child services." The man's smile faded. "You don't want to do this, Mr. Whitmore." "Actually, I do." Marcus's voice was steady despite the fear coursing through him. "And I've already called Detective Chen. She's on her way up right now." It was a bluff, but a good one. The men exchanged glances. They couldn't risk a scene, not with real hospital staff potentially responding to the call button, not with witnesses. "This isn't over," the lead man said quietly. Then they left, disappearing down the hallway like shadows. Lily sagged against the wall, exhaustion and relief washing over her. Ethan moved slowly toward her, offering his hand. "It's okay," he said softly. "My dad doesn't lie. If he says you're safe, you're safe." Lily looked at the hand, then at Ethan's kind face, then at Marcus, who was watching her with an expression she'd almost forgotten, the way adults look when they actually want to help, not hurt. She took Ethan's hand. "They killed my mommy and daddy," she whispered, "and they're going to kill you too if you help me." Marcus reached for his phone, this time calling Detective Sarah Chen for real. "Then we need to make sure that doesn't happen, starting with whatever's on that USB drive." Lily clutched the drive tighter. 6 months of hiding, of being alone, of being terrified. But maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to do this by herself anymore. "My daddy said knowledge is power," she said quietly, "and I know everything." Detective Sarah Chen arrived within 20 minutes, 2 uniformed officers flanking her. She took one look at the frightened child huddled next to Marcus's bed, and her entire demeanor shifted from skeptical cop to protective guardian. "Lily Morrison," Sarah said softly, kneeling to be at eye level with the girl. "We've been looking for you for 6 months, sweetheart." "No, you haven't," Lily said flatly. "The investigation into my parents' deaths was closed 2 weeks after it happened. I checked." Sarah's expression darkened. "How did you—" She stopped herself. "What do you mean you checked?" "I know how to access public records. The library computers don't ask for ID." Lily's voice was small but certain. "My daddy's case was shut down. The detectives who worked it were transferred. All the evidence was sealed. Someone wanted it to go away." Sarah looked at Marcus, who handed her the USB drive. "She says she has proof, footage from the night I was attacked. And other stuff," Lily added. "From the night my parents died, from the drug deal my daddy witnessed. I've been gathering evidence for months." Sarah plugged the USB drive into her laptop. What appeared on the screen made her face go pale. The footage showed everything. The men in suits attacking Marcus, the license plate of their car, their faces clear in the streetlight. But that wasn't all. The drive contained other files, photographs Lily had taken with a stolen disposable camera, showing the same men meeting with police officers and city officials. Documents she'd photographed in various offices she'd broken into. Names, dates, locations. How did a 7-year-old? Sarah trailed off. I'm small. People don't notice me, and my daddy taught me to pay attention to details. Lily's voice cracked. He said it might save my life someday. I guess he was right. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through the evidence. Lily, this is connected to something much bigger than your parents' case. These men, they're part of a corruption ring that goes all the way up to... She stopped, glancing at the door. We're not safe here, Marcus said. They know she has that evidence. They'll come back. Sarah nodded grimly. I need to make some calls, very carefully. There are people I trust, but... She looked at the photos of police officers on the USB drive. We don't know how deep this goes. What do we do? Ethan asked. Sarah made a decision. Mr. Whitmore, you're being discharged tomorrow against medical advice, and I'm arranging for a safe house. Lily, you're officially in protective custody, but we're keeping it off the books. As far as anyone knows, we never found you. What about my dad? Ethan asked. He just had surgery. He can't... I'll be fine, Marcus insisted. He looked at Lily with fierce determination. I made a promise to you. I'm not breaking it. Over the next hour, Sarah made careful phone calls to federal prosecutors she trusted, to FBI agents who specialized in corruption cases. The evidence on Lily's USB drive was explosive, enough to bring down dozens of corrupt officials, enough to dismantle an organization that had been operating in New York for over a decade. But it also made Lily the most wanted target in the city. The man who came to your room, Sarah said to Marcus, his name is Victor Castellano. He's an enforcer for the Moretti crime family, but they don't usually get involved in political corruption. Someone hired them to tie up loose ends. My daddy, Lily whispered. He witnessed Moretti people doing a drug deal with someone important. Someone in a government car. Sarah pulled up a file on her computer. James Morrison responded to a shooting 6 months and 2 weeks ago. The victim was a low-level dealer who'd gotten caught in crossfire. James saved his life, and while he was working on him, he saw who was there. Senator Richard Blackwood. Marcus's eyes widened. The senator who's running for governor? The same one. He's been using Moretti's organization to eliminate rivals, intimidate witnesses, and cover his tracks. When James Morrison said he was going to testify about what he saw, Blackwood ordered the hit. Sarah's voice was tight with anger. The attack on you, Mr. Whitmore, wasn't random either. Your company's encryption software was going to be sold to the state. Blackwood couldn't let that happen. Your security measures would have exposed his communications with Moretti. So he tried to kill my dad before the contract was signed, Ethan breathed. And when that failed, and you started asking questions, you became an even bigger threat. Sarah looked at Lily. This brave little girl has been gathering evidence for 6 months, living on the streets, risking her life to make sure the people who killed her parents faced justice. Tears streamed down Lily's face, the first tears she'd allowed herself to cry since that terrible night. Ethan wrapped his arms around her in a fierce hug, and she didn't pull away. She held on like she was drowning, and he was the only solid thing in the world. What happens now? Marcus asked. Sarah's phone buzzed. She read the message and smiled, a grim, satisfied smile. Now? Federal agents are executing warrants as we speak. By tomorrow morning, Senator Blackwood will be in custody. Victor Castellano and his associates are being arrested. And thanks to Lily's evidence, They won't be able to buy or threaten their way out of this one. Is it over? Lily asked in a small voice. Sarah knelt beside her again. The dangerous part is... But you've got a long road ahead, sweetheart. You're going to need counseling, a proper home, people who can take care of you. Lily looked at Marcus, then at Ethan. For 6 months, she'd been alone. For 6 months, she'd survived by trusting no one. But these two had kept their promise. They'd protected her when it put their own lives at risk. I don't have any family left, she said quietly. Marcus exchanged a look with Ethan, and something unspoken passed between them. That's not exactly true, Marcus said gently. You have us, if you want us. There would be legal processes, Sarah said quickly. Background checks, home studies, court approvals. It's not simple. I don't care how complicated it is, Marcus interrupted. This child saved my life. She spent 6 months alone, fighting for justice, staying brave when most adults would have given up. She's family now. Ethan nodded enthusiastically. You could have your own room, with actual walls and a door, and we have a really good cook. And I could teach you how to play video games. For the first time since her parents died, Lily smiled. It was small and tentative, like a flower pushing through concrete, but it was real. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, Marcus said. Take all the time you need. But Lily already knew her answer. She'd spent 6 months running, 6 months hiding, 6 months being alone. She was tired of being brave by herself. Sometimes her father had taught her, the bravest thing you can do is let people help you. Okay, she whispered. I'd like to stay. Outside Marcus's hospital room window, the sun was rising over New York City. Somewhere, federal agents were executing warrants. Somewhere, corrupt officials were being arrested. Somewhere, justice was finally being served. But in that hospital room, something more important was happening. A little girl who'd lost everything was learning that family isn't just about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who show up when you need them most, the people who keep their promises, the people who see you at your worst and choose to love you anyway. Lily fell asleep in the hospital chair, Ethan holding one hand and Marcus holding the other. Detective Sarah Chen watched them for a moment before slipping out to coordinate the final arrests. The danger wasn't completely over. There would be trials, testimonies, and potential retaliation to guard against. But for now, in this moment, they were safe. They were together. And they were family. 3 weeks later, Lily stood in her new bedroom at the Whitmore Mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. The room was bigger than her entire Queen's apartment had been. Cream walls, a canopy bed with pink sheets, and a window overlooking endless gardens. It terrified her. You okay? Ethan asked, carrying a box of new clothes Marcus had bought. It's too much, Lily whispered. Ethan sat beside her. When my mum died 4 years ago, this place felt too big too. But then I realized the space isn't empty. You fill it with good things. You're one of the good things now. Marcus appeared in the doorway, leaning on his cane. Lily, Dr. Patricia Hammond is here. She's a therapist who helped Ethan after his mother passed. Lily's walls went up. I don't need a therapist. Even the strongest people need someone to talk to, Marcus said gently. The nightmares that woke her screaming every night told a different story. Okay, I'll try. Dr. Hammond was soft-spoken with kind eyes. She didn't push Lily to talk. Instead, she pulled out a sketch pad. Sometimes words are hard. Draw me where you feel safe. Lily expected to draw her old apartment, but her hand drew the hospital room, Marcus's bed, Ethan holding her hand, Detective Chen at the door. That's when I stopped being alone, Lily said quietly. They talked for an hour. Dr. Hammond explained that fear had kept Lily alive on the streets, but now she could let other feelings in, trust, hope, maybe happiness. After the session, Lily found Marcus in his study. The trial? Will I have to testify? Yes. But you won't be alone. We'll be there. Marcus wheeled closer. When you ran into my hospital room, you became family. Your father was a hero who taught you to be brave. I'm not trying to replace him, but I promise you'll never have to be that brave alone again. The tears came then, really came, for the first time since that closet. She cried for her parents, for 6 months of fear and loneliness. Marcus held her through all of it. I'll testify, Lily said when the tears stopped, for my daddy. That night, Lily ate dinner at an actual table with people who cared. Ethan made her laugh with terrible jokes. Marcus told stories about his company. Mrs. Chen made pot roast that tasted like safety. For the first time in 6 months, Lily went to bed without checking locks 3 times, without hiding food, without sleeping in her clothes. She was still scared. The nightmares would still come. But she wasn't alone anymore. The peace lasted 11 days. Marcus's phone rang while Lily and Ethan did homework in the library. When? How many? His voice rose. 3 of Castellano's associates made bail. Judge Morrison denied bail initially. Detective Chen arrived within the hour. 3 defendants made bail after Judge Morrison, who we suspect is connected to the corruption ring, took over the case. Are we safe? Marcus asked. You have security and police presence outside? But I won't lie. These men know Lily's the key witness. Lily's hands clenched. I'm not hiding again. No one's asking you to hide, Sarah said. But stay on the property. The trial starts in 3 weeks. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her face went pale. Senator Blackwood just held a press conference, claiming the charges are fabricated. He's calling the evidence fake and saying the FBI coerced a troubled homeless child into lying. The headline read, Senator Blackwood claims street urchin falsified evidence. Lily felt slapped. After everything she'd survived, they were calling her a liar. We fight back, Marcus said. No, Sarah said quickly. If Lily goes public now, it gives the defense ammunition. Save her testimony for the courtroom where it's protected. So we let them call her a liar? Ethan's voice cracked. For now, yes. Once that jury hears Lily testify, Blackwood's lies won't matter. That night, Lily heard voices from Marcus's study. She shouldn't eavesdrop, but she couldn't help it. They're threatening my son now, Marcus said. A note in his backpack. Lily's blood ran cold. Ethan got threatened because of her. We can increase security, Sarah replied. That's not enough. What's to stop them from... Marcus's voice broke. If you pull Lily from testifying, Blackwood wins. They'll eventually come after her anyway. So what do I do? Risk my son to save a case? Lily backed away, tears streaming. She was putting them in danger. Maybe she should just leave. A knock on her door. Lily? You awake? Ethan came in. I heard you walking. Nightmare? Something like that. Dad told me about the threat. Ethan sat beside her. Don't say you should leave. That's what they want. Together we're stronger. But if something happens to you, then it happens. But I'm not abandoning you. You're my sister now. Ethan's voice was fierce. Dad already started adoption paperwork. You're stuck with us. Lily's breath caught. He did. So you better get used to it. Ethan grinned. Lily cried again. Different tears this time. Gratitude, belonging, love. Okay, I'll stay. I'll testify. Together. Together, Ethan agreed. What they didn't know was that Victor Castellano was meeting with Senator Blackwood at that moment. The trial starts in 3 weeks. That gives us 3 weeks to make sure the Morrison girl never makes it to that courthouse. The next 2 weeks passed in strange tension. Lily attended therapy, started online school, learned chess with Marcus and video games with Ethan. She even smiled sometimes, but threats kept coming, a dead rat on the doorstep. Brake lines cut on Marcus's car. Anonymous letters describing the house interior, proving someone had been watching. They're trying to break us, Marcus said. The trial starts in 6 days. We just need to last 6 more days. On day 3, everything changed. Lily was in the kitchen learning to make cookies when the doorbell rang. Ms. Chen checked the camera and saw Detective Sarah Chen at the door, but something was wrong. Sarah always called first. Before Mrs. Chen could react, the woman at the door pulled a gun and shot out the camera. The security alarm blared. "Get her out!" Mrs. Chen screamed, pushing Lily toward the back door. But Lily saw the truth. The woman wasn't Detective Chen, just someone wearing her badge. She saw the black van in the driveway. She saw the fire starting in the living room from a thrown Molotov cocktail. "It's a coordinated attack," Lily said calmly. "They're trying to burn us out and grab me when we evacuate." Marcus tried calling 911. No signal. "Jammed." "The panic room," Marcus said. "Basement. It has a landline." They ran as smoke filled the house. The fake detective and her team were breaking down the front door. They made it to the reinforced panic room just in time. Marcus called 911 while they caught their breath. "This is Marcus Whitmore. My house is under attack by armed assailants posing as police. We have a federal witness with us. Send everything." Help was 7 minutes away. Above them, attackers searched. "We know you're here, Morrison girl. Come out and your family doesn't get hurt." Smoke seeped under the door. Lily looked at their frightened faces. "I'm the one they want. If I go out—" "No," Marcus and Ethan said together. "We're family," Marcus said, opening a cabinet and revealing a handgun. "That means we stick together." They heard sirens, real ones, fire trucks, police. The attackers fled. When police confirmed the house was secure, they emerged. The house was destroyed, smoke, fire and water damage everywhere, but they were alive. The real Detective Chen arrived furious. "They duplicated my credentials. How did you know?" "She didn't call first," Mrs. Chen said, "and the badge was on the wrong side." "I'm relocating you tonight," Sarah said. "Protective custody at a federal safe house." Not asking, telling. This time Marcus didn't argue. As they salvaged what they could, Lily looked at the ruins. 6 months ago she'd lost everything. Now people were destroying homes because of her. "We're okay," Ethan said, taking her hand. "That's what matters. Home isn't a building, it's us." 3 more days until the trial, Lily said. 3 days. Then we make them pay. The federal safe house was a Brooklyn apartment. No outside windows, reinforced doors, cameras everywhere, protected by U.S. Marshals. It felt like prison, but it was the safest place available. 2 days later, Sarah Chen arrived with Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Torres. "Lily, I need to prepare you for court. The defense will try to discredit you, call you a liar." "I don't care," Lily said. "I know, but they'll say you do. They'll say Marcus paid you to lie." Torres was firm. "Stay calm no matter what they say. Can you do that?" Lily nodded. They spent 3 hours preparing. Torres asked every harsh question the defense might ask. Lily answered steadily, never wavering. "You'll be an excellent witness," Torres said finally. "With your testimony and evidence, we'll put them away for life." During dinner, Marcus's phone rang. "Yes? What?" His face went white. "Someone broke into my company servers. They stole all the backup files of Lily's evidence." Sarah arrived quickly. "The USB drive is gone too. Someone accessed the FBI evidence locker. They knew exactly where it was." "How is that possible?" Marcus demanded. "Someone on the inside. We have a mole." The room went silent. Someone they'd trusted had been working for Blackwood. "The trial starts tomorrow," Torres said. "Without physical evidence, this becomes much harder. We have Lily's testimony, but without footage to corroborate." "They can claim I made it all up," Lily finished. "We still have forensic evidence from the attacks," Sarah said desperately. "But we can't prove the corruption conspiracy," Torres said. "We can't connect them to Blackwood without Lily's evidence. Best we can hope is putting away Castellano. Blackwood walks. The man who ordered her parents killed would walk free. "So what do we do?" Ethan asked quietly. "We testify anyway and hope the jury believes us," Marcus said sadly. "I saved copies," Lily said suddenly. Everyone stared. "I made backups, multiple backups. I wasn't going to risk losing everything Daddy died for." Lily stood. "I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know who to trust." "Where are the backups?" Sarah asked urgently. "Safety deposit box at Queen's Federal Bank. Under a fake name, I got a fake ID from a guy on the streets." Sarah looked stunned. "You're 7 and committed identity fraud to protect evidence. I did what I had to do. Tomorrow morning we get that evidence," Torres said, "and we nail these bastards." Marcus pulled Lily aside. "You never stopped fighting, did you?" "Daddy taught me never to give up. He'd be so proud. I'm proud of you." "Tomorrow we finish this," Lily said, "for Daddy." But that night, one of the marshals guarding them, Marshal Davis, made a phone call. "They have backup evidence, safety deposit box at Queen's Federal Bank." He hung up, expressionless. The mole wasn't in the FBI, he was right there wearing a badge. And he'd just sold them out for $500,000. Trial morning dawned cold and grey. At 6 a.m., Sarah arrived with a 3-car convoy. "We get the evidence first, then straight to the courthouse." Marshal Davis, who'd made the secret call, stood by the door. "I'll take point position." Something about him made Lily's instincts scream danger. But she was 7. Who would listen? They drove toward Queen's Federal Bank in the middle vehicle, Marcus, Ethan, Lily, and Sarah. Davis drove with another marshal riding shotgun. 2 more agents drove the lead and rear vehicles. 15 minutes from the bank, Davis spoke into his radio, "Taking alternate route due to traffic." Sarah frowned. "What traffic? The route is clear." Davis turned down a side street. The other vehicles followed. "Something's wrong," Lily said urgently. "He's taking us to them," Lily shouted. "He's the mole!" Davis slammed the brakes in an empty industrial area. The other marshals looked confused, reaching for radios. Davis pulled his gun on Sarah. "Everyone out now!" "Davis, what are you doing?" Sarah demanded. "Getting paid enough to retire. The girl and the evidence. That's all they want." They climbed out slowly. A black SUV arrived. Victor Castellano emerged, smiling. "Little Lily Morrison, you've caused me trouble. Your daddy, too." "You killed my parents," Lily said steadily. "Your daddy should have kept quiet. Now the backup evidence, where is it?" Lily looked at Marcus, Ethan, and Sarah. She thought about her father's courage. "Safety deposit box 447, name is Sarah Morrison." "Davis, take her to get it," Castellano ordered. "I'm going with her," Sarah said. "You're not negotiating." But Lily noticed the other marshals had been repositioning, surrounding them, and distant sirens approached. Ethan had triggered an emergency alert on his phone. Davis heard the sirens. His expression shifted to panic. "We need to move now." "No time," Castellano said coldly, aiming at Lily. "Tell me the account details. If you kill me, you never get the evidence. I don't need you uninjured." Castellano aimed at Ethan. "But I don't need him." Everything happened at once. Marcus threw himself in front of Ethan. Sarah fired at Castellano. The other marshals opened fire on Davis, and Lily ran, not away but toward the black SUV. She climbed in. The keys were in the ignition. She couldn't reach the pedals, but she put it in drive and steered from the seat. "Lily, stop!" Sarah screamed. But Lily was done being the victim. She steered straight at Castellano. He dove away, and the SUV crashed into a light pole. The airbag deployed. When her vision cleared, Castellano was on the ground with Sarah's gun at his head. Davis was wounded and being cuffed. Police flooded the area. Marcus and Ethan pulled her from the crashed vehicle. "Are you hurt?" "I'm okay." Lily looked at Castellano being dragged away in cuffs. "Is everyone fine?" "Everyone's fine. You could have been killed." But I wasn't." Lily watched the chaos. "And now they can't hurt us anymore." Sarah holstered her weapon. "That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen." Did we win? Lily asked. The evidence is still in the bank. Castellano and Davis are in custody. We have them on camera attempting murder. Sarah smiled. Yeah, kid, we won. With Castellano and Davis facing charges and certain to testify against Blackwood for reduced sentences, the prosecution's case just got infinitely stronger. As they drove to the courthouse in a secure vehicle, Lily looked out at the city she'd survived in and finally found justice in. When people ask how we met, Ethan said, this is going to be one heck of a story. Lily laughed, a real laugh. Yeah, it really is. Tomorrow she'd testify about the worst moments of her life, but also about courage, justice, and a family that chose each other. Her father taught her knowledge was power. But Marcus and Ethan taught her something more important. Love was strength, and together they were unstoppable. The federal courthouse stood like a monument to justice, its marble columns gleaming in the morning sun. Lily stood at the entrance, holding Marcus's hand on one side and Ethan's on the other. You ready? Marcus asked gently. I've been ready for 6 months. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Senator Blackwood sat at the defense table in an expensive suit. When his eyes met Lily's, he smiled, cold and calculated. Lily didn't look away. She'd survived too much to be intimidated by a smile. Assistant U.S. Attorney Torres approached. The evidence is authenticated. Castellano and Davis both agreed to testify against Blackwood, but your testimony will seal this. Ready? Yes, sir. The trial proceeded methodically. Prosecution presented the backup evidence, footage, documents, photographs connecting Blackwood to organized crime. They called witnesses and experts. On the third day, they called Lily Morrison to the stand. The courtroom went silent as 7-year-old Lily walked to the witness stand. The bailiff held out a Bible. Her hand looked impossibly small against it. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. She sat in the witness chair, feet dangling. Torres approached with a kind smile. Please state your name for the record. Lily Morrison. I'm 7 years old. Lily, can you tell the jury about April 15th? Lily took a deep breath. She told them about hide-and-seek with her mother, the closet, the gunshots, the terrible silence. Her voice cracked, describing her parents' bodies, but she didn't cry. Now was the time for truth. She told them about surviving on the streets, witnessing the attack on Marcus, recognizing the same men. Why did you gather evidence? Torres asked. Because my daddy taught me that knowledge is power. He said, if you know how to help people, you'll never feel helpless. Lily looked at the jury. I felt helpless when my parents died, but I could still make sure these men didn't hurt anyone else. Can you identify who ordered the attacks? Lily pointed at Blackwood. That man. He wanted my daddy dead because daddy witnessed him at a crime scene. He wanted Mr. Whitmore dead because his company's security would have exposed his communications with criminals. Torres showed her the evidence piece by piece. Lily explained how she'd gathered each item. The jury listened, captivated. Then came cross-examination. Blackwood's attorney, Thornton, approached with condescension. Miss Morrison, you committed crimes while on the streets, breaking and entering, trespassing, identity fraud? I did what I had to do to survive and find justice for my parents. So you admit you're a criminal, a troubled child who might confuse reality with fantasy. Objection. Torres stood. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Mr. Thornton, this witness is 7 years old. Proceed respectfully. Thornton changed tactics. Isn't it true Marcus Whitmore promised to adopt you if you testified? No, sir. Mr. Whitmore promised to protect me because I saved his life. The adoption came later. But you have motive to lie. A nice home, a wealthy family, contingent on convicting Senator Blackwood. Lily looked at Marcus and Ethan, then back at Thornton, and everyone heard the truth in her voice. I already had a family. My mommy and daddy loved me. Then your client took them away." Tears spilled, but her voice stayed strong. "I would give up everything, the house, the adoption, all of it, to have one more day with my real parents, but I can't. So instead, I'm making sure your client pays for what he did, not for me, for every family he destroyed because he thought he was above the law." The courtroom was silent. Several jurors cried. Thornton had no more questions. The trial lasted 2 more days. Castellano and Davis testified. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. "On all charges, conspiracy to commit murder, corruption, racketeering, obstruction of justice, we find the defendant, Richard Blackwood, guilty." The courtroom erupted. Judge Reynolds's gavel silenced them. "Mr. Blackwood, you used your position to commit heinous crimes. This court sentences you to life in prison without possibility of parole." Lily felt Marcus's arm around her, felt Ethan grab her hand. They'd won. 3 months later, Lily stood in family court. The mansion had been rebuilt. Her room had photos of her parents on one wall, her new family on another. "Lily Morrison," Judge Chen said warmly, "do you understand what adoption means?" "Yes, Your Honor. It means they'll be my family forever." "Is this what you want?" Lily looked at Marcus, who'd kept every promise, at Ethan, who'd become the brother she'd never had. "Yes, Your Honor. This is what I want." "Then it is my honor to grant this adoption. Lily Morrison Whitmore, welcome to your family." Marcus pulled her into a fierce hug. Ethan joined them, 3 people who'd found each other in tragedy and built something beautiful. That night they celebrated. Detective Sarah Chen brought a photo album of James and Catherine Morrison. "Your parents were heroes," Sarah said. "Always remember that." "I'll never forget them," Lily said. "They made me who I am." "And now you have more people who love you," Marcus said. "You don't have to choose between families. You can love both." Lily understood then. Loving Marcus and Ethan didn't mean forgetting her parents. It meant honoring their memory by accepting love, by building a new life while keeping the old one alive in her heart. She placed 2 photos on her nightstand, her birth parents and her new family. Both belonged there. Both were home. The next morning, Lily woke without nightmares for the first time in 8 months. Downstairs, Marcus made pancakes while Ethan set the table. "Today's special," Marcus said. "Exactly 1 year since the night you saved my life." 1 year ago, she'd been alone and terrified. Now she was safe and loved. They drove to the cemetery. Lily placed flowers on her parents' graves. "Hi, Mommy. Hi, Daddy. I'm okay. Marcus and Ethan take good care of me. I'm happy. I hope that makes you happy too." The wind rustled through trees, and Lily chose to believe it was her parents answering, telling her they were proud. As they drove home, Lily thought about everything she'd survived and learned. "I used to think home was a place," she said, "but it's not. Home is people who love you no matter what, who fight for you, who keep their promises." "That's exactly right," Marcus said. "So thank you for being my home. Always, that's what family does." Lily truly believed she was safe now. She'd lost one family to violence, but she'd gained another through courage and love. Her father had taught her that helping people means you're never helpless. He'd been teaching her something deeper, that even in darkness you have power. The power to choose courage over fear, justice over revenge, hope over despair. Lily Morrison Whitmore had been a street angel who saved a dying man, but they'd saved each other. Marcus and Ethan gave her a home and family. She'd given them a reminder that family is built from the promises we keep. Tomorrow she'd start 3rd grade. Next week another therapy session. In a month, a family vacation. She had a future now. She had people who loved her. She had hope, and she was finally truly home.